Even though we knew that Queen wasn't going to be able to stand up against Big Mom and probably put any form of dent into her, it's still pretty amazing to see that he was able to take 2 hits from her. Granted, however, the 2 hits he took actually were not named attacks. And we gotta also factor in that this version of Big Mom is very nerfed. Like, she doesn't have her homies, she's not really using her Devil Fruit power, she doesn't have her hat really awakened, and so she does have a lot of nerfs that is thrown on top of her. So it's kind of scary that she was just able to knock out someone like Queen in just 2 hits. Like, that's ridiculous. It is pretty ridiculous to be able to do that, especially in her type of state. It really just goes to show how strong Yonkos really are, and that you cannot underestimate them by no means, regardless of whatever state they may be in. I think, you know, a similar circumstance is kind of Whitebeard's situation. When you think about the final time Whitebeard was alive in the Marineford War, he actually was at death's door already. He was already a dying old man, and he still displayed this monstrous strength that no one really could stand up against. I mean, he was demolishing so many people throughout Marineford. So, I mean, when you think about it, if there's one thing that we have learned about Yonkos, regardless of how close they are to defeat or how nerfed they are because of just their state, their body state, doesn't mean you should underestimate them and think that they can't still pack a lot of power behind their hits. Because, like I said, we learned that from Whitebeard, and now Big Mom is also teaching us that exact same lesson. But anyways, let's talk about that. So, Big Mom, she is a character, obviously, that's been kind of the main spotlight for this arc. I mean, it's definitely a controversial topic because a lot of people, you know, there's some people that don't like Big Mom. And the reason why people don't like Big Mom is because people say she's the weakest Yonko. And I'm not going to get into that entire debate because I've talked about that a lot and other people have talked about that a lot. So there's just no reason to get back into it. The only point I just want to say is I don't believe Big Mom is the weakest. I truly doubt that. But anyways, many people, you know, don't like Big Mom's spotlight or how she is potentially going to be on the Straw Hat side fighting Kaido because it kind of unbalances the scales, you know, the fight against Kaido, because at the end of the day, a Yonko versus a Yonko, it's probably going to end up in a tie. But if you have a Yonko versus a Yonko with, you know, one side having way more named characters like the Straw Hat crew working with her, obviously they're going to be able to topple someone like Kaido. So it's definitely something that many are really upset about. Some are upset that Big Mom is, you know, going to be potentially helping out the Straw Hats, but personally, I think it's actually a good thing for the story, because we need Big Mom to go through a lot of development. I think that's kind of what the main point of certain segments of this arc is really about. Wano is to develop Big Mom as a character, because we gotta think about what the last arc was about. It was mainly about Sanji getting out, rescuing Sanji, and then going to Wano. And as I said, it was never an arc meant to really focusing on Big Mom and, like, diving into her character, defeat her and all that. It just wanted to introduce her, basically. And now it seems like Oda's wanting to spend some time with her character throughout this arc, and especially with this chapter, what happened within it, he's really wanting to kind of dive into Big Mom's psyche, like what makes her tick, and how she can overcome her problems that she's had since her, you know, birth as a child, since she was a very young girl, you know, if she can overcome certain issues she has. And we're starting to see, like, maybe a glimpse of her potentially changing. So, let's dive right into it. Big Mom, obviously her being there, many have been expecting Big Mom to get very upset and go on a rampage and destroy everything, like, you know, with her, you know, hunger pains, as soon as she found out that the food that she wants was eaten by Luffy. Like, we all were under that impression she was going to go on a rampage, because that's just her character. That's what was set up with her character. That's how she was throughout the entirety of the Whole Cake Island arc, chasing down the Straw Hats, and that's everything that's been established. But, once again, this is a different example of Big Mom, in that she isn't necessarily the same person, personality-wise, and there's definitely more going on with her than we realize mentally. And I think this is a big wake-up call to that, is that for her to, yes, she's going on a rampage, but she isn't going on a rampage that's kind of like what she typically was, where she was so hungry she needed to eat something that is what she wanted. No, she's more just upset that Luffy ate the food that she wanted to give to the village that was nice to her. And so you can't really say that she's going on her typical rampage that we've witnessed throughout Whole Cake Island. She's definitely acting very different. And in this way, Luffy's kind of the bad guy here. He legitimately is the bad guy. Like, what he has done, eating the food and all that's typical Luffy, but eating the food and making Big Mom act like that, he is the one that's caused this, and he is actually the bad guy, because Big Mom is actually wanting to do a good deed. She's legitimately wanting to get food for the village and feed them. Even if she's hungry, she wants to feed the village because they were just so nice to her. So this is a completely different version we're just not used to. She's showing compassion. She's showing the ability to share, because that was one thing we noticed throughout, the last arc, is that Big Mom, she was very greedy. She really wanted food. When she was hungry for something, she wanted it all to herself. She would consume it. And she would not really give things out. She would not care about people because of how distorted she became as a person, thanks to what Streusen did. After raising her, after she was lost, she lost, Mother Caramel. When Streusen raised her, it corrupted her, and she became the Emperor of the Sea, as we know. So I think that being around the Straw Hats will definitely allow Big Mom to change for the better. I think there will come a point to where Big Mom will awaken and her old memories will resurface. It's common sense it's going to happen, but I think it's going to leave a very difficult spot. It's probably going to place it to where both sides, the good and the bad sides of Big Mom, are going to start clashing together, and it's probably going to create a new entity, something that's very different that we haven't really seen before, and it could either make matters worse or much better. We really don't know. But I do like how Big Mom is being used as, training for Luffy. It's an effective way to put Luffy in a situation to better his haki that is believable. Because, let's look at this. Even if Big Mom is nerfed, she was still able to two-shot Queen. So, because of that, if Luffy gets hit wrongly, if he doesn't protect himself properly, he's going to die. He legitimately will just die. And so will, he'll die too. So it's not a good situation. And as we know, that was already established, with immense stress, haki improves. It grows at an exponential rate. We already had this kind of dived into with the Katakuri fight, with how Luffy was developing his observation haki. But this was already established a very long time ago with Usopp, when he was under immense stress and his haki improved to be able to hit sugar from that distance. And then we also had the scene with Kobe a long time ago in Marineford. So it's something that's been around for a while, but it's just recently started to take a major point to where, you need to be in these situations to improve. And what better way to force Luffy to improve than to fight a monster that's literally in-game level? A Yonko is a monster. They're not something you just play around with. I mean, when we look at the beginning of this arc of Wano, Luffy got one-shot by Kaido. He got knocked out in one hit. And I already know many are going to be saying this. I can already see it now in the comments and all sorts of, different communities on the internet when it comes to One Piece. I already see many saying, oh, if Luffy's able to tank Big Mom as, Big Mom's first hit, that means that she's weaker than Kaido. And this is what's going to anger me, because, listen, Kaido used a named attack against Luffy to knock the man out, okay? He used a big weapon, too. That's most likely haki imbued, like Sea Stone or whatever. He had haki probably on it. It was Sea Prism Stone. He had a weapon that was obviously meant to just end someone. And like I said, he used a named attack. Big Mom is incredibly weakened, and she's someone that's just not herself using any of her abilities, but she still was able to wipe out someone like Queen. So it would make sense, because of Luffy's endurance and just how he's been pushing himself, he would probably be able to tank something that isn't a main special ending move named attack. But I do think it's going to leave him with a lot of pain, because once again, taking a hit from a Yonko is just not going to be pleasant whatsoever. So even if Luffy's able to tank a hit or two, and even able to improve upon this, doesn't mean that, she is weaker than Kaido. It just, you gotta look at the circumstances of what has been presented as evidence since Kaido's, introduction of fighting Luffy to, now Big Mom. So, anything else left to get into? I guess, let's talk about Raizo and what he's doing. So, we found out that the smaller versions of the Snells, they actually are going to this, like, Master Snell, and if the Master Snell is taken down, then they cannot give information from the region. So they effectively cut off all communication in Udon, which is incredibly important, because if they could somehow go around and taking out all these Master-like communication Snells, then they can control the entirety of Wano and eventually strike at Kaido. They can kind of stop information from flowing. So it is definitely a critical plot point, especially engaging in the final part of Wano and going up against Kaido. Another thing too is that we also have the event with one of the samurai finally, the cell is finally broken down, and we're gonna finally get to see what he truly looks like. I am curious to see what his true overall appearance is, you know, update all that. I'm curious to see how he is. I mean, I wonder if Oda's going to go for more of a comedy route with the character, or if he's going to go with a serious, you know, epic looking vibe or whatever from him. We'll see where it goes. But okay, I want to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you got this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.